Research says that a ballpark number of the amount of decisions that we're making in a day is around 35,000 decisions. And while a lot of these decisions we're making are unconscious, the conscious ones certainly do add up really quickly. So think about every time you wake up and you hit the snooze alarm, every time that you try on an outfit and it doesn't work for you, every time you have to think about what you're gonna eat, how you're gonna cook it. These are all decisions we're making throughout the day, and I will tell you, especially if you're like me and you have ADHD, these decisions can be exhausting. Today we're going to talk about the big 5 ways that we are decluttering and organizing our homes all wrong. These 5 areas that we keep getting wrong when we're organizing are big hitters because they are high traffic areas where we just keep failing miserably. But we're going to fix them all today by starting right here in our entryway, and let's talk about some of the big mistakes that I kept making right in there. So if you haven't noticed yet, I'm a bit of a nut. But that doesn't mean that I don't know a thing or two about organization. So let's start with these 2 bins right here. And we're going to talk about what's so important about the changes I made in my entryway closet. Now, where I would certainly never, ever toot my own horn, I do feel like these were the most amazing thing that I changed when I started to organize differently, working with my brain instead of against it. If you are organizing your things into very tiny categories, and all of your cards and stamps and envelopes have their own little container, and that container goes in a bigger container, which goes into a bigger container, which goes into a bigger drawer, that if you're overwhelmed by that, it's probably because it's just too much. What I have found is that when I try to overcomplicate my organization, I no longer found it useful because I couldn't figure out where those things should go. I always had to expand the containers or expand where they should go because more things were coming in. It became very exhausting. Best thing about this container right here, which I call my everything bin or my junk drawer, is that that's exactly what it is. I've been very conscious about what I keep in here. Let's look through my junk drawer and talk about why this works. So in this first container I'm calling my junk drawer, I have, like I showed you, all of my cards and the stamps that are gonna go with them. I have things like our travel bag that we use all of the time. Every time we go to the zoo or to a fair, we're gonna take this bag because it can hold any of the excess things we need. I also have those specialty jump socks. If you ever take your kids to those jump parks, these are things that I need to have out and in a place that I can easily find. But the best thing about this is that I don't need to see exactly what's inside of it. But also this stopped me from having to be highly organized about everything. No longer do I have tiny little containers in this bin. It just doesn't work. We need to simplify putting things away because what do we love to do? Procrastinate. What do we love to do? Just put it down and walk away because it's easier. Believe me, that is me, and that's why I can speak on it. So instead of having one container for every little need you might have, think about your hats and your gloves and your scarves as one thing that goes together and just have one bin for them. Don't overcomplicate organization. So now that we get the idea that we want to start super simple, we don't want to highly organize everything and then regret it in the future, I'm going to take you up to my bathroom and I'm going to show you another magic thing that we're getting all wrong when it comes to organization that's making our lives so much more complicated. Okay, I have to catch my breath for a minute. Let's talk about the next thing here that we're going to talk about that we're getting all wrong when it comes to organization, and that is the idea that if we have a clear bin that we can see through things, that our brains is going to love that visual cue and we're going to be great. We're going to always know where things go. We're going to find them. But I have a secret. A little closer. It doesn't work. And here's why. So it's not like we have bad intentions with the being able to see through things and those clear containers. But the problem is that when those things that we're putting in the clear containers are very visually overstimulating, guess what we want to do? Like, oh, I want to run. Like, I want to procrastinate. I have a hard time finding what I need if everything that is inside the clear bin is just visual chaos. So here's what we're gonna do instead. If you are being overstimulated visually by the things that you have going on in your containers because the container is clear, I have some advice for that. And that is to get a container you can't see through, but throw a label on it so that you're still getting that visual cue. We get afraid that we're not gonna put things back because we don't have a visual cue. You still have it. You still have it if you have a label. You don't need any fancy label maker. Get a marker or a piece of tape, whatever. But please put a label on it. That way you don't have to worry about forgetting where it goes. The magic of not seeing what is inside, whether you can get a top or not, even just looking at your container like this as opposed to this, is radically different for how our brains are finding things, looking for things, and how overstimulated our brains are going to be by all that visual signals that we're getting as we're looking in, say, our bathroom closet. That doesn't mean clear containers don't have their place and their time. They do. But if you have things like in your bathroom closet or your kitchen that you're not using all of the time, then having a container you can't see in and labeling it, or even putting a lid on it, which really helps me, will allow your brain to be calm when you're entering the space, but also be able to get those cues that you need in order to know where things go. But as we said before, we don't want to overcomplicate it. So in my bin, this is like my hair stuff for me and my daughter, and I have one basket. That's it. One basket that holds all of our hair stuff. And then the rest of the things, like my daughter's hair straightener, curler thing, can sit inside the basket. I don't highly organize anything. I want to be able to lift that lid and throw things in as quickly as possible. Okay, so with that being said, let's run and let's talk about the third thing that you could be getting wrong when it comes to organization that might be driving you absolutely crazy. Are you coming? Come on. If you've been around here for a little while, then you know that I try my absolute best to tell the truth and tell it like it is, because there's nothing worse than people telling you how to declutter and organize and it's not real life for them. So with that being said, let's talk about a mistake I just made. And that was to think that more baskets in the area that I like having baskets is a great idea, that having more is going to be better. And yeah, I guess I should have said that out loud. I guess I should have said that out loud to myself when I was doing this, because then I probably would have caught my mistake. And that is, adding more and more shelves and baskets does not actually solve our real issue when it comes to organization, because the big issue is you have too much stuff. So I did this because I recently heard from another YouTuber. They said to have some baskets in places where you end up dropping things, because then you can use the baskets as a first catch, I guess, to your clutter. And where I think that has some real value in certain areas around your house, it didn't work in this one, because adding more baskets into this initial entry area where I have a lot of clutter just means that I'm putting off putting things away when I need to just go ahead and do that rule that I tell myself: if it takes a minute or less, put it away. If you are struggling with procrastination, visual overstimulation, whatever, that doesn't sound right, but being overstimulated in your home and you constantly see these little piles of things everywhere, it's not like you're doing anything wrong per se, because you might even use and need those items. The problem is that when we start to just collect them in one area, we're putting off the inevitable. And the longer we do that, the more irritating it can be to us. So I do have one basket that I keep in here that I'm gonna continue to keep in here, that is a decluttering bin, a bin for things that need to go out of my house. Maybe they belong to other people, things I need to return, mistakes I've made. Like, that's a great basket to have near the entryway. But I don't need these extra two ones that just became an area for me to procrastinate and put off putting my things away. So if you are looking around your house and you're thinking, I just need more bins because then I can catch my clutter and go put it away, it's probably not a good answer for you if you already have trouble with putting things away. It's just going to be another step to actually doing the thing that you need to get done. So where I say have a basket, don't go crazy like I just did and think more is better, because this completely and utterly did not work, and I'm gonna get rid of them right now. By the way, this is the basket I recommend. One basket to contain the things that need to go, declutter, whatever. Have one, don't have three. Mistake acknowledged. We like to call this basket that I made right here decision procrastination, or the things that I probably should have just put away in that 1 second and decided not to. As easy as it is to say to ourselves that this will make my life better, it didn't. I tried it. It didn't work. All right, it's a true sign of love that I picked this up and brought it up here because it is not easy or light. But what I wanted to tell you is the next one is we are overcomplicating what we do with all of our paperwork, all the bills we have to pay, all of the shenanigans we need to keep when it comes to paper. We're way overcomplicating it. And if you feel like you want to run every time that you get a bill or your tax papers and all that junk, then it's not you. It's just the organization of probably a filing cabinet you might have with all of the tabs and all the colors. And it was great in the beginning, but now it's just too much. So what I've learned to do is to just simplify what I have. And in the things that I end up keeping, I just use this very simple Ziploc bag and I will throw a label on it. And everything that is in that category when it comes to paper is going to go in that plastic bag. It is almost free, like $5 to do that. And it all goes into this black box. So this is the highly important information. And if you get one of these, they are amazing. They are fireproof. So in case of an emergency, they are still going to be around in the future. But I knew that before I was keeping way too much with all of those like file things that I used to have. I used to do the same thing as a teacher with my huge file cabinet. And guess what? I barely ever went in there and used any of that stuff because it was crazy and chaos. But simplify, simplify, simplify. Only keep the things you absolutely need. Grab yourself a little gallon-sized Ziploc bag, throw a label on what it is, and put it in a container that you are going to say, once the paperwork is out of the space, the container I've given it, then I need to go through and figure out why and what the excess could be that I could get out of there. Okay, we're gonna stay in the all-important entryway for this next one as well, because honestly, the entryway is like the soul of the heart of the clutter. That probably made no sense, but it's where all my clutter tends to start. And so the first thing that I want you to do is, sure, have some great hooks, have some baskets, but don't overcrowd them. And here's why I'm saying this. What I have learned about organization is that the magic is finding the right balance so that it visually is appealing while also, number one, being functional. So for these hooks that I have behind me, I only keep the most important things, which is my bag that I use every single day and my daughter's book bag, which she has right now at school. Those two things stay there because I need the visual cue to say, hey girl, like please, red flag, you're leaving, you don't have me, right? Like we need that in our lives. But come here and I'll show you some more magic. The other important thing is to remember that if you have a coat closet or you have a place where you're putting your jackets and your vests and your shoes, that you make sure that when you look in, I guess I'm blocking you, right? When you look in initially to your entryway closet, it is not absolute chaos. So going back to having the baskets like I have up there that are not see-through completely, and having baskets for my shoes that are not completely see-through. And also, all important is the hooks that I have in here. They go all the way around. But what I've learned is that if I put all of my jackets in the middle of this closet, even though I don't have a lot of jackets, it looks crowded and overwhelming and visually, when I look in this closet. But if I instead keep the majority of our jackets on the sides of the closet and keep the center open so that when we have guests, people over, they can put their jackets there easily. Nothing has to be moved, but that's the only time that anything is there in the middle. it makes a lot of sense, and it makes it more visually pleasing to the eye when you open up this closet and you don't see absolute chaos. So we used to have the bar that I think most people have going in if you have an entryway closet of any form, but we got rid of the bar and put in the hooks so that we could use that idea of keeping things on the side. Visually, it's not as crazy, and keeping the center open so that it feels, I don't know, like a breath of fresh air, I guess. It just feels easy when you look inside of it. Hello, Blue. There you go, boy. I would like to preface for the authenticity of this video that I did not come in here and put anything away or stuff anything down or throw anything out before I brought you guys in here. So that being said, I think a lot of us look in those fancy stores, container stores, and we're like, oh, if I just had that beautiful closet, my life would be perfect. But it's just a myth. Thinking that if we spend more, that product will work for us. That could be anything from our organizational stuff to just basic life stuff. Bye, Blue. What I have found to be the best in my closet is to have baskets where I, as a person who likes to throw things, can just throw things in here and they fit. But also, I like to make sure that the baskets are all symmetry. They all, it's not even the right word. They all coordinate. There we go. And they're either the same basket or something that is visually similar in the same color scheme. There we go. Color schemes, so that when you initially look in the closet, even though I don't have any doors or a curtain, it looks visually appealing. The other thing that I want you to think about is that this closet that my husband and I put together and actually made ourselves was inexpensive. We bought this wood that's right behind me, and my husband actually had them cut it right there at the hardware store, which is an option. We stained it. We bought these brackets from Amazon, super cheap. I think they were like $18 to $20 for all of them. And then we put our own hanging bars on the sides. So it's going back to trying to make your closet the best you can, not as visually overstimulating. Only having one or two hooks that you can hang things on for convenience. But what I have found to be the most truthful thing possible is that when we overcomplicate anything in our lives, especially organization, it isn't gonna be something that we can carry on forever. We have really high, great hopes, but the second that you make it take an extra minute or two than you normally would have before, you're gonna wanna throw it all away. So simplify, 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 and remember that just because it's expensive doesn't mean that it's gonna be the right answer for you. If you've enjoyed this video of this quick couple of myths and things that I was doing absolutely terribly wrong when it came to organization, then please click on one of these videos here and keep going, because I wish you guys all the very best.